Hi PNG, I'm here to tell you something that might cause you some confusion and throw you off your game somehow on your voting, but I think it's important that I talk to you about this concern I have regarding voting. I'm going to be talking about why you should not vote for independent candidates. Okay? Don't worry, at the end I also talk about why you should not listen to me. So anyway, I'd like to say, first of all, you have to know why you're voting. All right, tonight, if you're going to vote tomorrow, you have to ask yourself, why am I voting? The question is, what's the vision? What's the outcome? What do you want to achieve in your vote? Okay, now, this is important because there's two possible general ideas or visions that you have in your mind when you're voting. One, you have an idea of service delivery. You have an idea of someone who's going to deliver your services to you, build your roads, fix the potholes, build the classrooms, schools, clinics. So you have an idea that maybe that's your vision. And over the past few weeks, you have been listening to people who have been saying things that maybe align to your vision. All right, so maybe you're going to vote for that on that platform. Number two, you could probably be voting because you want to get an MP in Parliament who will be a good voice in Parliament. Okay, that second one is probably a rare one. Not a lot of people are thinking along that line. Just get a person in who will be a good voice in Parliament. Okay. Most of us are voting on the premise that we want this person to deliver service back to us. All right. I'm here to tell you that you should, if you have that premise, the premise that you're voting for someone who will deliver service, it's not a good idea to vote for independents. Okay. I have three reasons why. 1 and 2 lead to number 3. Firstly, independents are unpredictable. They're unpredictable. Most independents by now would not have told you who they're going to vote for when it comes to deciding government. They haven't told us. Let me know if there's some independent candidates who have told you this, but most independent candidates, we don't know who they're going to vote for government. And forming government is very important. It's the first thing they do in the first ever session of Parliament in the next government. Okay, the first 2 legislative acts or acts in the legislature that MPs do is they vote for the Speaker, and 2, they vote for the Prime Minister. Okay, these are important decisions. Now I'm going to tell you why voting for the Prime Minister is very important. But if you're concerned about who's going to be our Prime Minister, you have to be concerned about who your candidate's going to vote for. And independents, we don't know who they're voting for. They're unpredictable. They might get in there and vote for a Prime Minister that you just sincerely do not want to see become Prime Minister. They might do that. Okay? Party candidates, by default, we know that they want the party leaders to be Prime Minister. So we're going to give them that respect or that assumption that if they're going to win, they're going to be voting for their party leaders to become Prime Minister. Okay, that default setting is not available to independent candidates. Okay, so if you're concerned, this is understood by all our major political parties. So you can see them putting all the money, getting out there and campaigning for their candidates because they want to form government and they need numbers to form government. So they understand this and they're getting out there. And those of you who have already decided on parties to vote for, you're going to vote for those parties. You've aligned yourself, probably become members of those parties already. But for those of us who are sitting on the fence, we're kind of looking at independence. But the thing about independence is they're unpredictable. Okay, number 2, independents are lone voices, right? Whatever reason they have to stand, whatever platform they have, whatever ideology or service delivery policy that they have, they are singular voices. And in this democracy, that cliche about having strength in numbers, that's very true. And if you're a lone voice, it doesn't matter how reasonable your ideas are, you can't gain traction on them the way parties can gain traction on their policies. Okay, so you're going to end up in parliament and you'll have to start connecting with other politicians and start sharing ideas and socializing ideas in order for your idea to gain some traction. That's in parliament. So if you have this big dream, it doesn't matter. It's better for you to align in a party, so when you get into a party, you have numbers who can just create momentum around your ideologies. So there's strength in numbers, and individuals don't have those numbers. Unless independent candidates have advised you or have informed you and I of who they're going to align with, unless they have done that or are doing that, we don't know who they're going to align with. So most independent candidates, they are lone voices. We don't know how they're going to gain traction. Even as great as their idea is, it's better that ideas come from parties, because parties have numbers to really gain momentum on their numbers. Lone voices will eventually become silent voices. Okay, number 3. This is an important one. This feeds off of my reason 1 and 2. Executive governments deliver services, not private MPs. Executive governments. Okay, what do I mean by this? When executive governments form government, they have control over the money, or at least they have control over the people who have control over the money, the bureaucrats. The bureaucrats have control of the money. They sign the checks. They sign the paperwork that will eventually release checks, money. That's what they do. Of course, we have the national executive signing off on major contracts, but bureaucrats do the other things. They go and assess contracts, contract proposals, project proposals, whatever. That's what they do. Bureaucrats are responsive to the executive. Okay? They only respond to the executive. The executive has the power or the influence, at least, over the bureaucrats. What I mean by bureaucrats is departments, right? Agencies that are supposed to do the work on the ground. So they are out there responding to executive governments, and they're delivering service that the executive government wants to deliver. So the executive government ultimately controls them and controls the money. Secondly, we live in a decentralized system of government. So you have the executive government, then you have the provincial governments, and then you have the local level governments. That's also how money trickles down, and that's how policy trickles down and is disseminated into the districts. So money follows the policies of the central government, right? It follows that and goes down there. Now, if we lived in a perfect system that money eventually, like right now, most of the money trickles down, but then it somehow disintegrates along the way, and we don't see the fruits of that. Okay? Now, you think of all your complaints in the last 5 years about lack of service delivery. Most of you would have been complaining about lack of service delivery from Parliament, from the national executive, right? You have not so much held your private MP accountable for the lack of service delivery, even though you would have complained from time to time about it. But this is the thing. In a certain sense, Papua New Guineans understand that the executive government sets the platform for development in the country. Yet, that's not the platform on which most people vote. Know what I mean? Like, so most people vote on the platform that I want this one single MP that I am voting for to deliver service, at least in my electorate. But then when it comes to assessing the performance of government, we're thinking on the platform of, yes, this government is responsible for service delivery right here in my electorate. So there's the disconnect. You did not go to the polls on that basis, right? You went to the polling booth and you cast your vote on an independent MP who was unpredictable. You did not know how he would make his ideas work, but yet you voted for him. But then when it comes to the term of government, you're now holding the government responsible and you're blaming it for the lack of service delivery, right? So here's the thing. If you want the executive government to deliver service, you have to have that in mind when you go into the polls. What kind of executive government am I going to arrive with if I vote this person in? You see? That's why you shouldn't vote for independence, because you don't know. It doesn't edify your vision about what kind of executive government you'll have. Okay? So start from the premise of getting an executive government in place. And what kind of executive government comes into place? It depends on who you're voting for and who that person eventually goes and votes for. Okay? So decentralized form of government. Even if we have this perfect system where money trickles down perfectly and does not disintegrate, your MPs on the ground have no control over that money. Seriously, MPs have no control over money. They maybe give directions, they maybe have some discretionary funds and whatever, but the major funds that actually deliver service to all our areas in the country, they're not controlled by our MPs. So a lot of MPs, you'll hear them get so frustrated. And it's most likely that MPs that have delivered service in their provinces or their constituencies, they have done that through donor funding. Okay, they've used their influence, tried to get some donor funding. They've maybe come up with some good project proposals, maybe got some good traction. They have some influence over district administrators, the people who release the money, right? And they have been able to do some work. Otherwise, what they're most concerned about is they're trying to get the money from the government. It means that they lose their power and their voice in parliament because they have to align themselves, and then they lose some of their independence and they lose some of their own power in that sense. Okay? So, anyway, bottom line is, what do you want to achieve? If you're going to achieve an outcome that results in a good executive government being formed, then you have to make sure that your candidates are going to be aligned to a good government. Okay? Kind of means that you'll have to inform yourself about what are the policies out there for the major parties, especially the major parties. All the minor parties that are just completely unknown and just riding on the ego of the leaders, those are mostly jokes, really. But otherwise, those major parties out there, we have a few of them around. If you want one of those few major party leaders to become prime minister, you have to be campaigning for their parties, right? And you have to be voting for their parties. It also kind of means that you have to forgo the influence, or you have to blind yourself to the flaws of the candidates of the party that you want. So if that's the party you want to be in charge in the next 5 years, you got to be blind to the flaws of the candidates. I know he's got some issues, but I want this party to be in place. Listen, even great men with great moral high standards, they won't find any traction and they will be frustrated and pretty much ineffective as parliamentarians. Okay? So if you want the result, if you want the outcome of a good executive government that sets the tone, that eventually money trickles down and results in service to your people, then you have to be thinking about voting along party lines rather than independence. So these are my reasons why you should not vote for independence. Here's my closing remark, why you should not listen to me. Okay? Why you should not listen to me? Because we have some great independent candidates out there that we just need to put in parliament. They just need to be in that house and be the voice. Okay? If you are going to vote on a platform of whatever, on a platform of individual MPs, then vote for someone who's going to be the voice. Okay, here's the thing. Parliamentarians who are going to be voices in parliament, they have to sacrifice a lot. Okay, they have to sacrifice even giving service to you because they have to be there, maybe in an unfavorable situation of being in the opposition. Okay, which means lack of influence in how money flows. But their job, parliamentary's job, number one, is to elect government, and number two, it's to pass laws. Okay, within those functions, they have to hold the government responsible. So they ask questions and they threaten the government with vote of no confidence if the government doesn't perform, because they want the government to deliver service to the people that they are responsible to, that they represent in parliament. Okay, so you as a voter vote for the MP who holds the executive government accountable. But if you vote for someone who is not going to play that role, you lose your connection to the executive government, and you lose the power you have to hold them accountable. But you should not listen to me, because we need great people out there, and they are independents. And by the way, for governors of provinces, everything I've said does not apply. They have power and influence in the provinces that they can gain some traction with their ideas, and they can have the influence that their ideologies for the province can really be rolled out, even if they're independents or they're aligned with some parties. Obviously, you might be concerned about their alignment with the national executive government, but as far as your province is concerned, if they become governor, they have the power to do certain things. Okay? So, you should not listen to me, but you should listen to me at the same time. Don't vote for independents unless they tell you who they're going to vote for and how they're going to vote for laws while they're in parliament. Okay? So, this is radical. This is a paradigm shift for some of you, I understand. But this is the system. The system supports this idea. Your dream system of having to vote for an MP and he provides the services, the system doesn't support that. So you either bring your dreams in alignment to the system, or you find a way to change the system to meet your dreams. Okay? But this is the current reality I'm sharing with you. I wish you all the best in the voting. Listen, whatever government comes in, we're going to survive. Papua New Guinea is a great country. We're resilient. We will survive. Okay? But vote wisely. Vote for the government that you want to be in place. Thank you very much, and I wish you all the best. God bless you all. Bye-bye.